You are now rocking with the 3-yard play.
Right.
We just figured out a 3-yard play, fam. We're gonna win every time.
Yeah.
Hit that link with you. Come on in.
You're tuned into the 3-Yard Play podcast. Well, the only question is, does it work for you?
Trail got wings, bitch.
We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year. We live in weight just to hold up the trophy. Flag on the plate, cause them haters can't hold me. And 1, 2-a-days and run up the biggest hill just to sharpen up my skills. They hit the scoreboard first, I had to hit them drills. Time I get around the corner, they gon' see my new wheels. After practice, till the lights come on, till they bust ride out and they gone. That rally had us help, my teammate down the steps. Player, we got plays you ain't even seen yet. I post up and fade away like graffiti. Just don't claim it's love when you see us on TV. We been working all year. It's game time. We all here. We turned up. Oh yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
3-Yard Play podcast.
We been working
brought to you by reality.
all year.
Where it is, what it is.
Game time.
You get what you get.
We all here.
So comment and let us know where you
Oh
live.
yeah. Cause we finna be the champs this year.
New Black Magic Jr. album, Riot's Work, coming soon. Featuring bangers like How Deep, Cursed, the Poland Remix, Rolling, and many more. Also be sure to check out the album, FN Max, Sleep Well, and Breaking Cases of Mercy.
Engineered alien technology that took the skull and bones silver first for all of y'all to see. Black magic in the flash, hacking through the algorithm, killing shit the best.
New Black
95
Magic
Bulls
Jr.
running full court press. Jordan back after getting shit off his chest.
Cause the truth is the hardest shit.
What's good? What's going on, family? What up, T-Mo? What's up, LJ?
What it do?
Hey, back at it again, man. This week, the word for the week is consistency. And that's something that I just been running across in my day-to-day, hearing people speak on it, seeing it on social media, just happening to run into it. I might even see them graph write the name consistency. But overall, I just been running across that, and it seems like in these times, consistency is really key. We have more tools than we ever had, and there's more avenues. You have more platforms and a lot of opportunity, but whatever it is, you got to kind of stick with it, it seems like. So what are you guys' thoughts on consistency? Or is that something that, rings a bell at all or strikes a nerve?
Yeah, man, growing up playing sports and, doing music and things like that, I just watched over time how much time you put into something. Eventually, you don't really see it at first, how you developing and how you get into your destination. But at the end of the day, that power of being consistent gets you to that ultimate goal in the end. And so, yeah, man, for me, whether it was, being a great athlete, doing music, man, over time, you got to stay with it.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
it's I had a lot of thoughts on when you mentioned the word consistency, and it just I apply it to so many different areas of my life, and in terms of how important it is to future success at the end of the day. Two words that also came to mind were grit and resilience. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, I was reading something not too long ago, and it was said something like patience is the key to consistency. And Lord knows that's the truth. You know what I mean? You gotta just stay in the game. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I find myself ready to tap out. You know what I mean? And I was bumping into a guy the other day. I hadn't seen him since college. It was probably about 30 years, I guess now. He's like, "Hey man, you still working with those kids?" And I just started laughing. I said, "Man, you know, I ain't stopped. But it just reminded me, in all my ups and downs in this journey, I have remained consistent. Everybody now knows me for caring about youth and wanting things. But I'm thinking like, man, I'm trying to be a billionaire. You know what I mean? But the thing I worked on consistently was mentoring and helping youth. You know what I mean? Despite having other goals in mind, you know, that was the one thing I was most consistent with, and I probably had the most impact with.
Right.
Because I was stayed in the fight. You know what I mean? What about you, Trip?
I think personally, it's shown through in academics, you know, and just in schoolwork. That was one thing that I recognized. You know, I was an all right student. You know, sometimes I would excel, sometimes I would not excel, but I knew overall, well, just remain consistent. You know, do your work, put forth some effort. As long as you put forth some effort consistently, then that in itself will be rewarded. But I think, you know, nowadays as an adult, one thing I contemplate or I consider a lot is the idea of you get what you put into things. So with that being the case, a large part of the challenge in America in terms of, you know, setting yourself apart is consistency. You know, there, of course, you got to find your lane or find your niche or whatever it is that you're going to focus on and what you're going to do so that you can streamline. But, you know, outside of that, there's a lot of people, even once you figure out what it is you're going to do, there's a lot of people that are in that field, whatever it is. There's a lot of people for the most part, unless you think of something super unique. But, you know, almost everything has been done already. So what separates people is going to be natural talent and consistency. And, of course, natural talent you can't control, and that does vary. But consistency can a lot of times close that gap. And it's interesting because people look at the Bill Gates or the Warren Buffetts and sometimes with disdain or feel like, oh, why don't these guys do X, Y, and Z? Or why am I not in their position? Or they were born however. And the older I get, the more I recognize, like, I don't, you know, I'm not commanding that kind of plate because I'm not putting in that type of effort consistently. I'm not working as hard on a daily basis. You know, some of these folks, they say, well, this guy works smarter or he had whatever advantage. But you see a lot of these people who really run these companies that love working. They love what they're doing. Right. And some of these dudes, they already caked up to where it don't even matter about the bread. They just love what they're doing. And they wake up with a passion. And if you're not passionate about that, you're not going to be able to be in the environment with them because just the way they're motivated by it. So a lot of times I think about that when I think about consistency these days, of just trying to refine myself and go in on something consistently to where I become a subject matter expert or, you know, whatever it is.
All right. It's funny you say that because it triggered some thoughts on what I think now I realize where consistency really kicked in my life. Of course, you know, parents always say, oh, yeah, that be consistent with everything, No, I'm thinking about when I was dating. That's what I'm thinking about. You know, you said something about that natural talent. You know, I'm thinking I'm walking up in these situations, getting it in. I don't did the work, make sure I'm presentable and all that stuff. But then you're like, bro, like to say, now my wife used to always say, hey, but I need that consistency. I need you to be consistent. I need you to show up, not just every now and then. I need to know every time that you're going to be there. And so I saw an article, I think it said prosperity mindset, and it mentioned consistency. And I'm thinking like, yeah, I think about 16 years in the marriage, ups and downs and all that stuff, but we consistently work on it, you know, with a level of intentionality and all that stuff. So I think about my family now, you know, we said that I thought I could just walk into this situation and just be me and everything was just going to be good. Nah, bro, you got to put in some work. You know what I mean? So, and I mentioned my marriage and my family, but I'm talking about in all the relationships I've had since learning that lesson, you got to be intentional. You know what I mean? You got to put some work in. You just can't show up and think things are just going to be all right. They could be all right, but what's that the goal? And all right, ain't never been comfortable for me.
I think too, another thing, when you speak on consistency, you could also speak on not just the physical putting in work, but actually also being consistent in the person you are. You know what I mean? I think like that, even like your identity. I admire people like Ice Cube, you know, because his character has been basically consistent, and that to me gives him a certain I guess range of authenticity. You know what I'm saying? Where he could just be him in any environment. You know what I'm saying? And that came from being consistently who he was in every environment. You know, I think a lot of, even if you look at America, I think the problem we have right now is that it's inconsistent in who we think of ourselves as, you know, identity and things like that. So this can be this and this can be that. So we lose in consistency. And so I think that's the beginning of what we having our issues in this country. You know what I'm saying? We losing those values if they were even there.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back a little bit on that one.
Mhm.
And it's semantics. I know that. So I'm gonna throw that out there now before we go down this rabbit hole. But I think in our society we are consistently inconsistent, which is a culture. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
to the point where I don't know if it's good or bad, but I don't have any expectation of others hardly anymore because others are consistently inconsistent. So I can't really take full root in a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not to knock consistency, just to show that, man, even consistently doing the wrong thing is not necessarily good. You know what I mean? Or sets you up for prosperity in a sense. And so I think we just need to be a little more open-minded of what, and I guess you say, I think you mentioned values earlier, but once you know those things, they kind of keep you in character and make you consistently positive in environments that you enter.
Right.
And along the lines kind of the idea of staying in character in your environment, I always like when we get to discuss solutions or, you know, things that can contribute to helping as well, you know, aside from just listing the problem. In terms of consistency, I feel like there's a lot of adjustments that I make along the way to try to contribute to being more consistent. You know, you can't always control the outcome, but you can affect a lot of factors going into things. You know, I understand, hey, if I eat this way, then I'm gonna feel like this, or if I eat this way, I'm gonna have these physical results, or if I hang out with, you know, in certain environments, then if a certain thing happens to me, you know, if I'm standing around a violent crime area and you happen to get caught up in a shooting, then you can't be as surprised. If you're just hanging out at, you know, somewhere in the street that may not be the best place to be, then, you know, you may reap the rewards or get the results of what comes from just that area. So the older I get, the more I try to consciously think of what things can I do and how can I, you know, do everything in my power to try to get the consistent result that I'm looking for and or to try to improve along the way. So I was wondering for you guys, you know, what are things that you all feel you know, adjustments you may have made in your routine that make things more consistent or that help out in that area. You know, one thing I did for myself last week, I was headed to a place. I was going to the bank. The bank closed at maybe 4:30, and I was on pace that I was probably going to get there about 4:15. And you know how Atlanta traffic is, and just moving slow. It's like when you try to be in a rush, as you see everybody you didn't want to run into, but they are, hey. So, I get in the car and I recognize, all right, I'm cutting it. I'll be there 4:20, 4:25. And then it just hit me like, man, this is something I want to get done, but it does not have to occur today. And I would do better to just pull up now, you go get a bite to eat, go to the bookstore, read a book, turn around, just go back home. But at least I can keep my peace instead of having to move in the energy that is what I'm trying to avoid. And moving forward, get out the door earlier, you know, make adjustments. Don't dilly-dally, lollygag around the house as much. Just move different. But I noticed making changes. The old me would have just rushed it, ran into people's business with 3 minutes, and then wanted to do 15, 20 minutes worth of business, you know. So it's like you recognize if you want to get different results, sometimes you got to move different. So what are things like that for you guys?
Yeah, adjustments are constant in my life. You know what I mean? Like, just from an educational standpoint, I always find myself having to dig, you know, a little deeper into something. You know, it's constantly just studying. I'm studying something, you know, to try to advance, you know, to the next level. So I gotta have that information. You know, there are a lot of things that I may take on that by technicality I'm not qualified for. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always adjusting myself as far as just trying to gain more more knowledge on what I have to do to get there. So that's an adjustment, just finding ways that you can be innovative and just, you know, continue to absorb, because you can get tired real quick. You know how it was when we were in school. You know, we're going to that hard school. It was hard to stay. That was the main thing about that school. It was, could you stay consistent? You know what I'm saying? Could you stay consistent at such a high level? You know, so, and those were your successful people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, I just like that. Just continue to study as much as I can and prepare myself. That's it.
Now, so y'all basically, I do the same things. Let me say, because it's no one thing that I do. Let me just be clear about that part, which opens up the door for me to talk about another thing. But you mentioned the learning, but I learned it. But I've learned to commit to listening to books on Audible. To your point, be committed to my my self leadership, if you will, and developing myself, and at all times. But I came across a book. This is. But I want to say all those things to set this up. I came across a book called The 4 Agreements, and one of the agreements was be your best. Always be your best at your best. But it defined your best in a way that works well for I guess you say, a growth mindset. So I use your example, Trip. Like, hey, you had other things going on, but and then you stop along, no, talk to somebody, but hey, you give your best every day. It just so happens it might not look the same every day, but in that moment, the best thing you can do is just take some time and share with some people. You know what I mean? And that was the best. But tomorrow is going to look different, because tomorrow you might not have those distractions. So your best in that space will look different. But just do the best you can. So you say, I think about like rushing home to get on the podcast. You know what I mean? Then I learned, hey, slow down. Do the best you can to get there, just so you can get there. First of all, safely. But safely, you know what I mean? But take better care and just give your all to the situation. And a lot of environmental, it'd be a lot of external factors that can influence how that looks. But if you give your all to it, then it just helps me reset each day. You're like, I didn't get this done yesterday, but hey, I'm gonna knock it out today. I'm gonna give my all to making sure it's done today. Then it's knocked out, all is well. You know what I mean? But all that to say, I had to get pushed past that procrastination. I had to learn how to push past procrastination. And then you mentioned the consistency is I want to show up for people the same every time. And that's my best self, using that new definition of best. I tried to call you, my bad. You know, things came up. Don't beat myself up over it, just accept it and move on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think overall, man, Cats, we coming up on that time point, and see, we could really wrap it from there. You know, I think that's good, man. We got some real good takeaways, and consistency is key. You know, these days with everyone having so much access to so much, then it's just about what you're gonna do. You know, how we're gonna put it down. So, to everybody out there looking or watching along at home, please chime in. Let us know, you know, tips, pointers, areas in which you've been able to be more consistent, or things that have helped improve consistency, or just your thoughts on the subject overall.
Yeah, I personally would love to hear some stories on how you use the tips that you would give and the successes that it did bring to you. I'd love to hear some of those stories. So please share.
Right. And, you know, I always remember that, you know, in this Instagram world, we still have to apply hard work, you know, put the time in and be consistent. I know a lot of times it gets easy to watch, you know, social media and think that everything happens overnight. But really, you know, it's not. It's a lot going on behind closed doors that no one sees, no one, you know, and they're being consistent, and that's how they're getting there. But I guess going forward would help if we sometimes shed the light on that work that people put in, as opposed to the finality of whatever came out of it. You know what I mean?
I love it. I love it. Hey, but what's the question though, bruh?
Do it work for you?
Does it work for you?
That's it.
Play.
Peace.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
El Bravo, tape you out. You start with the reference to God. All streaming platforms featuring hits like Young Jit, Stowaway, My Book of Life, and many more by Lil El Bravo at Lab Tech Music Group. It's time.
Like a stowaway.
Baby, you out. Release me.
Just like
In
a
stores now.
Your homeland's far away. Take my hand and let me lead, though. I feel like they wanna take me, but they weren't ready to me. Take a shot at the back of my head and leave me for dead.
El Bravo. Release me. In stores now.
You see, the thing that separates us from every other group of slaves is the fact that
Thank y'all for tuning in today and every day. And remember to keep running your 3-yard play.
Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers, they gon' grow. Oh, we gon' water season, watch that harvest flow. Whoa. I've been crunching
Cause we know heroes are made in the off season.
There should be no reason
and grind the slow is better than crashing out
we
the
get that
dough.
money bound for it, we don't run it.
Let's say, young brothers, remember,
fulfill the promise.
I ain't never 3 yards every day. They can never
I can't
stop.
read that narrative, so ain't no need of calling us. You ain't never had to tell your kid being black was a sin, cause his skin was reflected through America. Taking care of us was just a handout, right? But it was fair when free labor was just as nice. I can bet you your life, your kids living alright. Cause me and mine had to
been
do
rocking
it
with
or
the
die every
3
single
Yard Play
night.
podcast.
I get mine, yeah. You get up, yeah. But together, nigga, we gon' get some more, yeah. Look at them mouths, we feel like flowers,
So
they
like,
gon' grow.
subscribe,
We
share,
gon' water
and
season,
let's
watch that
discuss.
harvest flow. Whoa. I've been
What's up with
crunching
us?
numbers, winter, fall, spring, and summer. There should be no
Thank
reason
you.
that the baby
Tuning in
never
to
hunger.
3
When
Yard
we
Play
get that money
podcast.
bound for it, we don't run it. I only
Let's
pledge
focus on
allegiance
to
to go fulfill the promise.